Okay, we'll start with this. Set to go down on the undercard of Baumgartner versus Bomi Shin, April 17th in the tri-state area. Unbeaten up-and-comer Nat No Love Dove is set to return to action against experienced veteran Maria Micheo in what is a flyweight contest, a flyweight bout. Sporting an unbeaten record of 7 wins with no losses and 1 draw, 2 recorded knockouts, Nat No Love Dove is in some ways stepping up in competition with this fight, as Maria Micheo has been in there with a good number of really good fighters. She's serviced as an acid test for the likes of Senicia Estrada, Yo Costa Valle.
Both beat her. Went the distance with Gabby Fundora, Yadira Bustillos, Guadalupe Medina.
She's been around, sporting a professional record of 14 wins with 6 losses and no draws, 8 recorded knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 20 professional bouts, and now she's going to be in there with Nat No Love Dove, a fighter who's impressed me.
Scheduled for 8 rounds in the women's flyweight division, flyweight. That is where Gabby Fundora currently reigns as that division's undisputed champion. I don't anticipate that Nat Dove is on a collision course with Gabby because they're at very different stages in their careers. Where Nat Dove is really just starting out, Gabby's already an undisputed champion, moving to look into a different weight class.
Looking to move into a different weight class.
You know what I meant.
Maria was busy in the previous year, having seen action 4 times. Once in March, again in May, again in August, then again in September, going 3-1. She's won 3 of her last 4 fights, and currently she's on a 2-fight winning streak. So she'll have no ring rust to shake off. Nat No Love Dove was last in action at the very end of last year,
in December.
Also very busy, having fought 4 times. Once in March, again in May, again in August, then again in December. Almost identical schedule to Maria, with the difference being Nat is an unbeaten fighter, only 24 years old, to Maria, who's 40.
And there's still more work needs doing. Nat No Love Dove, as talented as she is, has yet to have fought in an 8-rounder and a subsequent 10-rounder. That's what I mean when I say she's not ready for a fight with somebody like Gabby. She needs more rounds, more experience, and I expect the people at MVP to get her just that.
She needs to have her fill of top contenders and former champions before she shares the ring with someone like Gabby Fundora, so we are a ways out from that conversation for now. She's going to be facing Maria Santizo next month on the undercard of Baumgartner versus Bomi Shin, and on the face of it, conservatively, I would go with Natalie to, at minimum, win a points decision. Maria's been stopped before, at least 2 times, but I don't know that Natalie goes for a 3rd.
I don't know that Natalie stops her. Natalie is a skilled boxer, crafty, but she's not the biggest of punchers. A points win seems likely.
Men's heavyweight news: Alexander Usyk is in talks over future of his world titles after facing call from rival to be stripped. Alexander Usyk's team director, Sergey Lapine, has suggested talks are ongoing over the future of his world titles. Usyk, the current unified WBC, IBF, and WBA World Heavyweight Champion, has taken a controversial next fight against kickboxing legend Rico Verhoeven in May.
A rare occasion where Alexander Usyk has now become subject to criticism. In previous years, he never gave you anything to criticize him over. Nothing to complain about, but all of that has now changed.
The World Boxing Council revealed that their world title would be on the line for the Ukrainian to defend, given how Verhoeven holds huge pedigree in the kickboxing ranks, but the 2 governing bodies are under pressure to clarify their stance on the fight. Given it seems unlikely that the belts will be on the line right now, Murat Gassiev, Usyk's old buddy, who he beat in the World Boxing Super Series ages ago, is demanding that the WBA make a decision or strip the champion, given he currently holds the regular title. Meanwhile, there have been calls from organizers for the title to be on the line when Deontay Wilder faces Derek Chisora on April 4th.
The IBF title.
Lapine suggested discussions are active and a solution is being sought. He said, "What do I make of the controversy around the WBC title being on the line? These are working processes that the team is currently dealing with. A decision will be made in the near future. We respect all organizations and their rules, and we are trying to find a solution that will be correct for all parties involved. The situation with the belts is always complicated because several organizations are involved and each of them has its own rules and obligations. Right now, discussions are taking place, and once everything is finalized, we will have an answer. Who does Alexander Usyk want to fight? After Rico Verhoeven, Usyk will likely be ordered to face WBC interim champion Agit Kabayel immediately after his clash with Verhoeven. Kabayel has waited patiently for several months and is next up in the sanctioning body rotation, but Usyk has alternative plans for his future. Usyk originally vacated his WBO title to steer clear of Fabio Wortley for what he believed was a better commercial opportunity, but now he has opened the door to facing the winner of his May clash with Daniel Dubois, and he would like his farewell fight to come against two-time rival Tyson Fury, who has reversed his retirement. So based on that, Usyk would lose the green belt to regain the brown one.
For anyone who was saying that he ducked Fabio Wortley, he's ducking Fabio. Fabio now comes back into the frame as Agit Kabayel exits it. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And that's what it is.
The saving grace for Agit Kabayel in the absence of an Usyk fight is that he's proven himself a draw in his native Germany. And if he is elevated to full WBC champion, he draws well enough out there that he could get international fighters to come out to fight him.
So he's not up the creek without a paddle. Murat Gassiev. I do not expect to see Murat fight Usyk again.
Via his WBA regular title. He is another fighter who, if he can hold his position and stay in the winner's bracket, might also be elevated to full champion in the not-so-distant future as Usyk's retirement looms.
How long are we talking?
About a year. Maybe a little over that, because Usyk's got the fight with Rico, then presumably the fight with Fabio if Fabio beats Daniel, then his swan song, his retirement fight with Tyson Fury, that nobody's asking for, by the way. Nobody's asking for a trilogy when Usyk won the first two, so why should there be a third?
Now that Fury's reversed his retirement, the only fight people really want to see him in is the Anthony Joshua showdown, the most sensible and sensical fight to make for the both of those fighters who are also coming up on retirement.
It's an ongoing conversation we've had here on the channel that Usyk has in many ways earned the right to do things his way now. He's entitled to do that, given that he was undisputed at cruiser, undisputed 2 times at heavy. He can do what he wants, but so can the fans, and that's the problem.
You can maybe ask the fans to understand the Rico Verhoeven fight, but you can't ask them to buy it. You can't force them to do that. It's a novelty fight, a circus fight that nobody was asking for. This fight is being billed as a pay-per-view where I think it should not be. I'm a big fan of Alexander Usyk, but in this economy, it's asking a lot to expect people to pay extra to see Usyk do a waltz with a novice. Even if he is an expert kickboxer, this ain't kickboxing.
Commercially, I don't know what the appeal of this fight is. Now, I understand that there have been other crossover fights like it in the past, like Joshua Ngannou, Fury Ngannou, Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, so on and so forth. It's hardly the first of its kind. This is hardly the first time a fight like this would have happened. I am understanding. I'm not condemning the fight.
I just can't sell it to you either, and I'm not trying to sell it to you, as Moses Itauma gives a defiant response to Usyk, rejecting the potential fight.
Another guy who's not on Alexander Usyk's 3-fight plan. His to-do list, young Moses Itauma. Moses Itauma is confident he wouldn't be broken by Alexander if they went head-to-head in the ring. British heavyweight sensation Itauma is on a fast-track rise to the top of the heavyweight division.
I would say Moses is on his way, but I'd hardly call it a fast track because for a guy so young starting out, for me, he just doesn't fight enough.
And there is a strong belief that he is on the cusp of challenging for world titles, with promoter Frank Warren expecting him to get his shot this year. 3 of the 4 belts are currently tied up with Usyk, who's indicated he isn't interested in facing the young star. He then doubled down on that suggestion, claiming he would break the 21-year-old if they were to meet. Itauma conceded he has big respect for Usyk, but doesn't think the champion's camp truly believe his words. He told IFL TV, listen, everybody's got to say something to the media. He isn't going to come on and say, anything else. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Usyk would be able to knock Dillian Whyte out in 1 minute? He's saying I'm a young guy, he'll break me. I've got the utmost respect for Usyk, but I know it's not the truth. He's not going to go onto the media and portray himself in a negative way, so I don't take offense. If I get the opportunity, I get the opportunity. If I don't, I don't. I know his team don't think what he said.
Itauma's chances of luring Usyk in look extremely bleak, but his profile is growing with every punch, though perhaps not fast enough for the two-time undisputed champion. I think that if Moses were worth a little bit more money, maybe Usyk would consider it, but at this late stage in his career, he's planning his retirement fund. He only wants the biggest of the big fights that yield the biggest purses.
And thus, he will take on Rico Verhoeven before he intends to take on the winner of Wardley versus Dubois, and then meet Tyson Fury for the third time. Though, if what Usyk is now doing is all geared towards securing the biggest purses, how is fighting in a not commercially viable fight against an unknown kickboxer, at least unknown to the Americans and most of the Brits?
How do you reconcile that?
Turkey's paying for it. It's not a fight that yields a big purse organically, generated by the fanfare from the fans at large. It's a fight that Turkey is willing to pay for, and we know Turkey's penchant for overpaying fighters in excess of their market value. That's why he's doing it. That's how you reconcile it.
While Moses Itauma is now looking to challenge for world glory before the end of this year, but may have his work cut out for him, Agit Kabayel is ahead of Itauma in the pecking order to challenge Usyk, and he too is unlikely to land the shot. It could be better for the Chatham native to pursue the winner of Wardley's title defense against Daniel Dubois in May, I think, provided the winner is Daniel and not Fabio, because if it's Fabio, Usyk is going to fight him. But if it's Daniel, I don't think we get a trilogy.
Alternatively, there is Russia's WBA regular champion Murat Gassiev, who's calling for Usyk to be stripped of the title so that he can be elevated, provided that Moses takes care of business in the not-so-distant future against Jermaine Franklin. He could go after Murat. He could go after that guy and his WBA regular title, because in doing so, he might be elevated to full champion once Usyk retires. Though, of course, for that to happen, he's got to beat Jermaine
Franklin, who says the judges won't be on my side. Jermaine is wary of bias as he gears up for Moses Itauma clash at the end of this month, admitting he expects the judges to favor the home fighter when he faces British heavyweight star Moses Itauma. The American contender has already gone the distance with two British stars in the UK, Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua.
Itauma vs. Franklin headlines a stacked, Magnificent Seven card in Manchester, courtesy of Frank Warren's Queensberry Promotions. Judging concerns have certainly heightened since last Saturday night's Dublin World Championship fight between Anthony Kakache and Jazza Dickens, where Kakache won via UD. In doing so, Belfast's Kakache became the new WBA super featherweight champion. However, his triumph was clouded by a mathematical blunder on the official scorecards. Despite the win being secured by scores of 115-113, 116-112, and 116-113, eagle-eyed boxing fans were quick to spot that Judge Giuseppe Caronone had submitted a mathematical error. His scorecard was recorded as 116-113 for Kakache, when it should have officially reflected a 116-112 margin in an exclusive sit-down with Sun Sport. Jermaine Franklin said he believes he must do far more than Itauma if the fight goes to the scorecards. Franklin said, "I feel like that's always a problem, but I'm just being realistic. I'm not from the UK, so I know how boxing works. I don't want to say it's a favoritism thing, but we all kind of know how it goes."
Okay then, you know it's a favoritism thing.
I have to do a lot, if he only has to do a little. I just have to make it work in my favor. The ref's not going to be on my side. The judges are not going to be on my side, so I have to make them respect me. Franklin knows exactly how close decisions can play out on British soil. The Detroit heavyweight pushed Dillian Whyte all the way over 12 rounds back in 2022, with many observers believing that he deserved the victory. Nicknamed the 989 Assassin, Franklin returned to Britain to face former world champion Anthony Joshua, losing a UD after another tough battle. Now Franklin is preparing to derail the hype around teenage heavyweight sensation Itauma.
not a teenager, he's 21.
But the 32-year-old says being written off has been the story of his entire career. He said, I've been looked down upon my whole career. Dillian was supposed to knock me out. AJ was supposed to knock me out in 5. So I just keep being disrespected and disrespected at this point. When I turned pro, they told me I was too short, too fat, and that I wasn't going to make nothing. So I've been fighting the odds forever.
You know what's interesting? I recently came across a story that detailed Jermaine Franklin uprooting from the United States over to the UK. You heard that right. This guy decided to move out there and live out there.
A ballsy move that I hope doesn't rely on a win over Moses to pan out, to be successful, because I don't think Jermaine is going to win this fight. Despite his concerns about judging, Franklin insists he respects Itauma's ability and expects a serious fight. He said, in my opinion, he's a cool guy. He puts his punches together well, he knows how to change levels real well, and he has good defense. He's game. He's coming to fight. But Franklin is convinced that if he leaves the result in the judge's hands, he could face another uphill battle, which is why the American believes he must make his performance undeniable when he takes on Britain's rising heavyweight star.
Moses has got a lot of tools, a lot of good things working for him, that he's light on his feet, he's nimble, he's agile, he's quick, he's got hand speed, and he's got boatloads of power, more than you would expect because he's not a big heavyweight, not a kloogie guy, but he hits hard.
Jermaine Franklin has got his work cut out for him, to where, I reiterate, I hope him moving to the United Kingdom is not contingent upon a win over Moses Itauma, because I don't think this fight is going to go his way. Jermaine is a solid fighter himself. 1 or 2 losses, but he's never been knocked out. He's never been stopped, so that makes him durable. He's been in there with 2 of the bigger punchers the heavyweight division would have seen in the last decade. He's got good instincts, good defense, knows how to protect himself, and some hand speed within close quarters.
Combinations.
He's a good fighter, albeit a good fighter that I think is very lucky to be here right now, and lucky to have gotten a decision in his last fight against Ivan Ditchko, because it looked to me like Ditchko won that fight.
Speaking of home cooking,
I don't actually think Moses Itauma is going to need any. I don't think they're going to need to fill out the scorecards in the parking lot, because Moses has shown devastating knockout power, real stopping power, to where he might be the first to knock out Jermaine Franklin. And I would call that a statement if he does. This fight was supposed to have already happened some weeks ago, if not for an injury that Moses Itauma suffered in camp, so it got moved. And now it's set to go down at the very end of this month. It's right around the corner.
and I suppose that's a factor, that Moses is coming off an injury, but I don't sweat it, and I don't think he's sweating it either. I think he might stop Jermaine. I think that's how this fight might end.
So when you hear Jermaine concerned about dodgy scorecards and biased judging, don't worry, Jermaine. Moses don't need the scorecards.
The judges are going to be able to go home early.